What's up YouTube? How's it going? Razzle's back with another video, and as you guys can probably see, I don't have normal setup that I usually do. I'm actually on a transition right now to move. I actually move into my new place tomorrow with my cousin Cody, and I'm pretty excited about that. But I figured I should try to make a video for you guys that I really haven't put anything out in a while. So I'm going to keep this intro short and sweet. We are on Supercross. It is the Indy 2 track, I believe, for MX Bikes. They just ran the series on this one, so it's now released to the public. And we are going to be doing a bike setup. And today I have a bike setup for the FC250, the OEM bike. If you don't know what the FC is, it's the Husqvarna. And I think I have a pretty good setup that works really well for this track. And since I'm not a pro at this game, I get below like a 52 to 51 lap time on this bike, which I feel like is pretty good, considering I think the pros are running like 49s and stuff on 250s. So we can get you in the ballpark, and I can kind of explain to you, how to keep the front end down if you ride a different, ride style than I do. So let's just get into it. All right, guys. So we're here. We're in the suspension setup thing. We're gonna start with that first. Actually, we'll go to general first. So I'm on the FC250. It's the OEM bike. Starting off with the general tab here. Fuel, you can drop this down if you're trying to go for hot laps because it makes you lighter. I leave it at 1.48 because I like to do like 15-minute motos and stuff like that, and that's about 20-minute motos actually probably get you 1.4 gallons or something, maybe even longer actually. It just depends on how hard you're hammering. I don't really do anything with the tires. I don't think you even can. But front pressure, I put it at 11.6, and then the rear, I actually sometimes drop it to 10.9, but I'm leaving it at 11.6 right now, which is what I think stock is. So we'll leave that. All this is the same, and we will move over to the suspension portion. Moving into the suspension portion, I didn't really change too much on this one, but there's a few things that do make this work really good on this track at least. The spring rate or not the spring rate, but the spring is going to be at 29 pounds per inch right there. Bump is 6 clicks, rebound 1, preload 4, and then oil is 105. Now oil right here is a big deal. Didn't really change it too much, but you can adjust this depending on how hard your hits are whenever you're like over jumping your casing jumps. Now I'll get into that a little bit later. Rear spring, this is another big one for keeping the front end up or down. I know it's rear spring, but it makes sense. Just bear with me on that one. 296, 5 clicks on the slow bump, 2.25 on the fast bump. This one's contradictory. I'm still trying to figure this one out. Rebound 0, and then preload is 16 millimeters. Moving on to the drivetrain. I'm running a 1452. This is so preference, guys. It just depends on how you like your shifting and stuff, but I find a 1452 puts me in second gear where I want to be a lot of the times, so that's what I run. And then as for others, mid-mapping, don't really do aggressive because there's flat corners on this track that you don't really want to spin too much on. I run a road of 1.5, so I don't really want to have it too choppy. 22 millimeter fork offset with a fork height of 23 millimeters. Swing arm length is left at 1, and then my rod length is 141. With all that being said, you can go ahead and pause the video on that and throw it on this bike. I don't know if it would work on any other bike. If it would work on another bike, I would probably say it's the KTM. Don't really know if any other bikes would work for this one. Reset our tires, go ahead and clean this up, and then we will go in and do some, show you how it rides in game. This setup is generally not the best turning setup, I would say. It's kind of in the middle of like where you probably want it to be. It still turns in pretty well. Like the flat corners and stuff, it turns pretty well, and you can really hammer down on the throttle. Like right there actually was on the throttle pretty hard, and it really didn't bother me. I came up a little short on that, so we'll just triple there instead. These whoops are a little tough. I come into them really slow and then hammer on after I catch the second one. I felt like that's like one of the better runs through the whoops that I've had. One thing I noticed about this setup though is that it works really well in like on this Supercross triple area. I can catch this inside and hit this inside corner. It's flat too, pretty well. Even OJ'd right there, and I was able to kind of hammer on and do a little drifting, and it worked in my favor. As you can see, I just cased right there, and it actually didn't destroy me too bad. And I mean, any run through these whoops without crashing is a good run through the whoops, guys. So take what you can get. With this setup, it works really well for going like diving in or going outside and then cutting down. If you know me or if you're a road with me or if you talk to any of my buddies that I play this game with, you know that I like to ride this, or I like to play this game like Cooper Webb, where I go kind of outside of the main line. Like, so for example, like I'll show you in this next corner after the wall jump. It's not a good example, but this is how I play the game. I usually come in and then I'll like cut down like that. I didn't preload over that, but that's my general style in this game. Alright, I'm gonna see if I can get an example of what I was talking about with having the rear or the front end either up or down, depending on your riding style. So a lot of people obviously like to keep the bike flat and like it's, you know, downside jumps perfect. I like my front tire just to be a little bit up, and as you can see when I was tripling that my front tire stayed a little bit high. I think that just helps so that way I don't like, you know, smash into like a face if I don't clear it all the way and go down. So since I have my rear spring at 296, it doesn't spring my rear end up as much. So what it allows me to do is allows me to keep my front end up a little bit. See how it was up a little bit right there on the on-off? Allows me to keep it up and get a good bounce off of things when needed, you know. But if we go into the setup manager real quick, and if I change it to I believe it's a 302. Let's see. So if we go to garage and put its suspension at 308, you're going to notice just that one transition. You know, I mean, obviously it's over 10 pounds that you're putting onto the rear spring, so it's going to make a big difference. Doing that one click right there and then saving it. So we'll just go for it. Watch how my front end is now going to stay a lot lower over jumps. Now, obviously it depends on your takeoff and stuff, which is going to be different, but you'll literally notice this a little bit. So coming up to this one, we noticed how my front end was up last time. No, like literally, it threw my front end down, like kind of like into like almost a kick. And some people kind of like that because of their riding style in this game. I prefer to have the front end just a little high because I don't know, it's just my style. And then maybe over and over this wall jump, it kind of helps you kind of pitch the bike down. Something to think about depending on your riding style. And also it's gonna change your turning just a little bit. Oh, yeah, I'm struggling right now. Putting 308 in your rear is gonna change the turning just a little bit. It's gonna make the rear end kind of not as sticky in the front. It's gonna sit the front tire down. You might be able to get a little more aggressive in the corners when you're in bowl corners, but flat corners it's gonna be kind of tough because your rear end isn't gonna have as much traction, you know. So another thing you guys can do is if you come into the replay, my buddy Spuds talks about this all the time. If you put it on slow-mo, oh, I'm sorry. If you put it on slow-mo, and you can literally watch like what your front and rear tire are doing in certain sections. So like obviously right there it came up short and that's not what we're looking for. But we go back to, here, we'll start it from right here. So slow-mo, like you can kind of watch how it's reacting. So like when you're coming through a corner, this works really well on nationals. So bike looks like it's tracking really well right there. Front end's down, kind of how the 308 would keep it. And then right here, like examples right here, like that was really smooth. So it's like the setup is obviously working. Like I downsided that perfect, but there was no extra kick. And also you're gonna notice right here, this is pretty harsh landing on this triple, and it doesn't really bounce too much. Like suspension compresses and then releases. No chatter in the rear wheel, like causing it to break loose right there. A little bit coming up on the transition, but overall it was pretty good. So yeah, you guys can come into the replay like this and really watch and see what the bike's doing. Obviously you can see me not going through the whoops really well right there, but we made it through without crashing. Like I said, any trip through the whoops on this track without crashing is a good lap. So use the slow-mo replay to actually get your setup going right there. Like if you notice my front end took all the brunt of that, my rear end kind of stayed stiff. and put me over that wall jump pretty good. This is a good way to kind of get your bike dialed in. So anyways, guys, that's just a short little video of my setup on the FC250 and MX bikes. Now, this is a Supercross setup. It would probably work in like a hybrid track and nationals or a really hard pack track. But I mean, just you'd have to just try it and let me know what you think. I know a lot of people have been asking for setup videos, and it is dependent on the bike that you're riding. I ride Husqvarna in real life, but on my team bike for MX bikes is a Honda, so I have two different setups. I could get into the Honda setup a little bit later, but I figured I would do this Husqvarna one for now because I know it's a bike that a lot of people like to ride as well. But it might be universal, it might not be. Like I was saying, the KTM might be the one. But appreciate you guys coming through. Drop a like on this video. Make sure you subscribe if you like all the content. And thank you guys so much for the feedback. Until next time, take it easy, guys. Out.